What's with health? Health is an attribute in gaming that defines the condition of a character. It's typically presented to the player as representative of or parallel to human stamina. Almost every game displays some indication of health to the player, even if they don't notice it. At a glance, one might say that Super Mario Bros. Doesn't have a health bar. Maybe it's unconventional to say, but Mario does have a health bar. It's just displayed vertically and literally is Mario himself. Many games employ different health systems. These can span the expected set amount of health you can lose to having no health at all, to a small amount of regenerative health, to even some rather strange systems. It's important for a game to have a health system that works with the rest of the game's mechanics. For example, if Super Meat Boy had the health system of Sonic the Hedgehog, that really wouldn't work. Super Meat Boy is a game that fits well with making mistakes and punishing the player by making them try again from the start. The health system of everything kills you in one shot just works for it. Or perhaps imagine the health system of Halo in a game like FTL. This makes absolutely no sense, since health loss in FTL generally spans an extremely long period of time, whereas the regeneration in Halo happens very immediately after the damage has stopped. To regenerate health in FTL as quickly as you do in a game like Halo would remove all challenge from beating the game. While many games have health, most games don't do much with it. That's to say, health doesn't play a mechanical role in the game until it's been entirely depleted. But that's not the case for all games. In some instances, the amount of health you have influences how other game mechanics are implemented. For example, in Mario, having more health allows you to break blocks and sometimes even shoot fireballs. The Left 4 Dead series hampers player movement speed the lower your health is. But even if the game doesn't change mechanically due to your health levels, usually the game will change in other ways. Maybe not in the game itself, but in here. In your head.
I have lice.
Often in a game, having low health causes players to be careful, and this makes sense. After all, with lower health, you constantly have a higher chance of losing any progress you've made since your last checkpoint. Players won't take the same risks they would have made otherwise. This can drastically influence the player's performance in the game, both positively and negatively. Some games use health more than just in traditional ways, but also as a means of ammunition or currency. This can be seen in Bloodborne, where you're able to literally spend some of your health in exchange for ammo. This is also a prevalent feature in the Persona games, in which all physical skills require a health cost of some kind, almost as if the health itself were being used as mana. But one could take this a step further. Technically speaking, health in video games functions mechanically similar to ammo for just about any situation. It makes a lot of sense when you consider something like rocket jumping in Team Fortress 2. Rocket jumping saps some of your health in exchange for increased mobility. If you're low on health and can't survive to do a rocket jump, you might not want to spend the ammo represented by your health on executing the jump. Similarly, recoil attacks in Pokemon games hurt you based on how much damage you deal. If you can't survive using the attack, you may reconsider which attack to use. Spending health in these ways are all means of intentional design, and that's why they work as well as they do. However, some means of spending health are a little less considered by players. This is because they weren't exactly considered by the designers either. Think about Super Metroid. You can only carry a limited number of rockets at a time, so you might want to preserve them, but you're still allowed to use it as you like. Also in Super Metroid, there are certain areas that require some tricky maneuvering to get through them with no health loss. But you do have a lot of health in Super Metroid. You can afford to make mistakes. Sometimes the player may find it worth it to lose some health in order to circumvent an obstacle in their way. The difference between health and ammo is that the expenditure of ammo is an intended piece of design, whereas the expenditure of health is not. However, using health in this way has the potential to be just as effective as using ammo in this way. This essentially exists as a byproduct of other game mechanics. A game like Rogue Legacy lets you spend some health in exchange for a short period of invincibility. A game like La Mulana lets you spend some health in exchange for being knocked back. Both of these responses to being hurt can be used in the player's favor. Invincibility frames and knockback both exist as a necessary solution to what might otherwise end up as instant death. If these things didn't exist, spending more than one frame in Hazard would result in gratuitous health loss. These essential features can serve as a doorway to spending health in interesting ways for more varied gameplay. But maybe all this seems a little silly to you. What's there to gain from spending health in this way? Earlier, I mentioned rocket jumping as an intended piece of design in games like Team Fortress 2. What some may not know is that rocket jumping originated without intention. It was popularized by Quake as a means of jumping much higher than normal by spending health and a rocket. However, this isn't something the designers had in mind while making the game. Players found it out by attempting interesting strategies and viewing their health as disposable. We're very accustomed to viewing health as being similar to real-life human stamina. But in the context of a game, health is just another expendable resource that allows you to play as you'd like. This doesn't necessarily mean that players should ignore the obstacles presented to them and view health as trivial. Just because health is mechanically similar to ammo doesn't mean it's any less important. It's arguably the most important resource to the player, and its importance is made more visible when these kinds of techniques are brought to light. So what's the point? Health gauges character condition. It's important for a game's health system to match the rest of its mechanics well. In some games, health serves extra purposes beyond measuring stamina. Health can be used similarly to ammunition, though it can deviate from expected methods of playing the game. Although it isn't always the designer's intent for players to play this way, it can open the door for interesting new mechanics that can shape the video game industry as a whole. And that's what's with health. What's with health?
Health is an attribute in game that defines the condition of a character. Yeah.